Okay, for the new SAT coming up in 2016, that's going to be a little bit more focus on trig. They're going to bring in trig a little bit more, kind of really try to see if students understand that very important part of math that every student should have at least taken in high school. So this question kind of focuses on that. So if you say, which of the following is equal to sine of pi over 5? Okay, so a few things you want to know about the relationship of sine and cosine, first of all. And what I want to write here is going to look like this. So the sine of x, okay, is the same as the cosine of 90 minus that x, okay, meaning if you have an angle x, if you just take 90 minus that x, you get that. So an example there would be something like, say, the sine of say 30 degrees is the same as the cosine of 90 minus 30 degrees, which is obviously cosine of 60. Okay, so it means the sine of 30 and the cosine of 60 are the same thing. So that's really what this question is really about. So if we go into the particular numbers they're giving us here, they're saying the sine of pi over 5 is equal to what? Well, what you want to do is go ahead and try to convert that into its cosine equivalent, which will be cosine of 90 minus pi over 5. Now, obviously, there's one thing that kind of shows up here. When I use the example here, these were in degrees, okay? So all degrees. But this question is given to us in pi. So that means even though I'm using my 90 minus pi over 5 here, I need to convert that 90 into its pi equivalent. So we should all know that 90 is pi over 2, okay? So essentially I can rewrite that as this, all right? So now at this point we're almost there. I'm almost done with this question because all we need to do now is just deal with that fraction, because essentially this pi over 2 minus pi over 5 is a fraction situation. So the one way you can subtract fractions is to get a common denominator. So my common denominator here, I want it to be 10 since I'm looking at 2 and 5. So I want a 10. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to multiply this by 5 to make it 10. But in math, whatever you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top, okay? And then over here, to get this to be a 10, I multiply it by 2. Whatever I do to the bottom, I do to the top, okay? So now this is what I have. I have cosine of 5 pi, okay? Cosine of 5 pi over 10 minus 2 pi over 10, okay? And then at this point, since we have a common denominator, which is our 10, this is over 10, I just have to subtract the top, which is 5 pi minus 2 pi, okay? And this gives us cosine of 3 pi over 10. Right, which is the answer, and the answer here is C. So all you have to do really here was to understand the relationship between sine and cosine, which is that if you just subtract 90 from the angle that you're given, you would get the other. You would get, if you do the sine of x, in this case the sine of 30 is the same as the cosine of 60 after you subtract the 90 from the 30 given to us. So and that's the same idea I used here. I just made sure that for my 90 I converted that into a pi form, subtracted that, and we get our answer, which is C. Thank you.